Tonight in the Fanatic Forum, it's time to get in the ring because myself and the Junior Fanatic, we're going to be talking tag team wrestling tonight. We got to pick our 5 favorites here. And of course, we want to know what your favorites are as well. So we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and we're going to do that right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Fanatic and host, George Buehler. Hope everybody's had a good week out there so far. It's getting close to the end of summer. School's getting back in session for a lot of kids, and that's no different around here. So my wife is enjoying the end of her summer break as we speak. And of course, I mentioned her because she's going to be on the show next week. We get to talk about favorite summer reads. So she's got a couple of book reports to do. So all you readers out there of actual books, the ones that don't have pictures, we get to chime in, and we're going to talk about a lot of our summer reading today. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, we'll do that next week. Anywho, so welcome to the Fanatic Forum. Again, I'm your host, George Buehler. This is basically a place for all things geek. We talk about comics, movies, TV, wrestling, video games, all sorts of stuff like that. Of course, today's topic is, what is your top 5 favorite tag teams? We don't look for the best of the best. We're looking for your 5 favorites. This could be any era of tag team wrestling, from as far back as the 1800s to right now. the scope is wide, folks. So let's talk wrestling here. And to do that, I need my guest host here, my brother from another mother, my Junior Fanatic Seth Moore. Welcome to the show, sir.
Ooh, thank you again for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, good to have you, sir. Good to have you. How you doing?
Thank you. I am doing wonderful. It is Friday. Couple of days not having to work, and after we get done with the show. So have you ever heard of the Baldur's Gate games, like those PC games?
Sir. Oh yeah.
So the 3rd one came out today, right? And I did that thing where I don't know anything about it. So I watched like a little bit of gameplay footage today, and I got super hyped to do it. So after we do the show, I'm totally going to do that. And it's supposed to be like this whole like Dungeons and Dragons style campaign.
Oh yeah,
and like complete with dice rolls and everything. And it was like yeah. So yeah, that's probably going to be my weekend actually. So
yeah. Our mutual friend Dave Gardner, he played the original Baldur's Gate. I remember because he was more of a PC guy and I was more of a console guy. So
right.
So he had a lot more of the PC stuff. So I remember he definitely played the first Baldur's Gate back in the day when we were in high school. But I basically kind of watched him play, or he would talk about it or whatever else. But I never played because I wasn't that much of a PC gamer outside of like Wolfenstein and Doom. So
yeah. But I know you're a D&D guy too, though, didn't you? Like, yeah. So it's you're familiar with it still.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are hyped about it. That's cool. I'm like, it's a lot of times we always hear about folks getting hyped about console games, but we haven't talked about a PC game in a long time.
For real.
Get really excited about it. So yeah, Baldur's Gate's awesome though. I mean, I'm glad that D&D's kind of getting a lot of love. Actually, I read an article too where they're the sequel to the Dungeons and Dragons movie, of course, the one that just came out this summer, isn't off the table, but it would probably likely be a smaller budget than this one because they put a lot of money into it and it didn't quite get as much of a return back. Even though it, the fans seemed to like it, but it didn't.
It was a fantastic movie. I loved it.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. So
it was just a good fun movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my only thing is I wish there was kind of like a bit of a we got some familiar places and like some familiar creatures and whatnot, but like I would have loved to see like a couple of characters that we all know from the D&D stuff, whether it would have been like, a Drizdo Erden cameo, or, I don't know, we've
Yeah,
passed, we passed by
I've heard.
Strong standing in the window or something.
Yeah, I've heard people say that, they could have added that, and I do agree to an extent. To me, it was really endearing because it felt like a movie where it was like a party playing D&D, like,
Yeah.
especially with the banter back and forth, and then, like, oh, once they finally check each other's inventory, they had the thing they needed, and, it was, just common tropes that, every D&D player can just point at and go, "I remember that, I've done that,"
Yeah,
and,
I agree. They
yeah.
did get that aspect well, and I thought the chemistry with Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine was great.
Oh, yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I just
Chris
love that
Pine was
he.
just, so good in that movie.
Yeah, he was just kind of the roguish scoundrel, and then she got to be the muscle, and so
Yeah.
that was awesome. So I mean, we got to see more than one dragon of different kinds. A beholder looked great in there.
Yes.
Gelatinous, the mimic. He's like all
The
these little
Mimic,
things.
yeah, it actually got the Mimic. That was great.
So just really really good
Yeah.
stuff. So that was a lot of fun. So like I said, we may see another D&D movie. So in the
I
coming
would,
years and whatnot. But anywho, so
yeah.
we got some good reading to talk about this week here, and I've only got a small stack because it was a light week. So I've really only got 3 picks to talk about this week here. Then we've got the wrestling talk to get into. And aside from
Yeah.
tag team wrestling, we've got a pay per view like this weekend, couple almost back to back coming up at the end of the month and going into September. And then there's also some interesting news in the wrestling world, maybe some involving some federal authorities and this guy. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Who still wants his pictures of Spider-Man?
Or he's got someone's mother tied to the train tracks or whatnot. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's that Snidely Whiplash aura about that. I just
yeah.
what did he I still don't understand why a grown man looks at that and goes, "I wanna be seen in public like this." Like, I
Money does crazy things to people.
yeah. Yeah, I guess if I had
don't
more
know.
money than sense, then I'd do some crazy stuff too. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Weird, weird, weird. Anywho, so 3 picks this week. And 3 of you would dig definitely here. So we've got. Now go full screen here. So there we go. We've got issue 5 of Justice Society of America. Jeff Johns is on the helm for this one here, and
Ooh,
Mikhail Logan does the interior art and does the main cover, and Jordy Belair helps out with the art as well. But this is a lot of fun. This is a 12 issue series, and we're only 5 issues in. And they come out like, they're definitely a once a month sort of thing like that. Some books, so they seem to come out more frequently than others, and this they take their time between issues here. But we've got basically Helena Wayne, who is the huntress from a potential future, as she is the daughter of Batman and Catwoman. And in her future, when she's an adult, Batman is dead. So she gets basically involved in this kind of time jumping adventure with several different iterations of the Justice Society. They are basically going up against a classic DC villain, Per Degaton.
okay.
Another time jumper himself, and he is basically killing different iterations of the Justice Society throughout time and throughout the multiverse for a very specific reason. Like I said, just if you're a fan of the JSA, this is some classic stuff here. Jeff Johns does a great job with it. I'm loving this series. So, yeah. And it seems that issue 5 kind of wraps things up, maybe with the Per Degaton story, but then kind of like opens up a further can of worms because, like I said, this is a 12 issue series, and we're only in issue 5. So there's more to come. But yeah, love it, love it, love it. If you're an old school classic DC fan, you need to pick that up. We've got 1 pick from Dynamite this week here, an obvious pick for fantasy fans here, but we've got Fire and Ice. If you're an 80s fan, you know your Ralph Bakshi stuff here.
Yes.
His classic rotoscope animation he did when, of course, he did like the Lord of the Rings movies and The Hobbit. Fire and Ice utilized that same technique as well for a epic fantasy story of two different kingdoms, obviously fire and ice, that were at war with each other. And this bad mamma jamma dark wolf here at the top, and the wolf mask there and the axe, somehow played a part in between all that stuff here. This is a prequel series, a 3-issue series that basically takes place before the movie. So we get to kind of see where a few people came from. Also, the main villain, Necron, who's kind of the Lord of the Ice Realm. You kind of get to see where exactly his powers came from.
Okay.
So yeah, really cool stuff here. This is the A cover done by the legendary Bill Sienkiewicz. So I had to get that one because I'm a big fan of Bill's work.
That looks
But then
metal as heck.
yeah. But it's a Dynamite book, so there are 40,000 variant covers for Fire and Ice. But this was an obvious one I had to get as well. This is the Frank Frazetta movie cover here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's gorgeous. So
That is awesome.
yeah, I got you the Bill Sienkiewicz though. So
Okay,
I got
that
you.
yeah, no, that looks awesome. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I know you're gonna love it. So yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but my absolute pick of the week, without a doubt, this boy right here, Conan the Barbarian from Titan Comics here, which is a British company, and I love it when Conan is in the hands of European companies because they get a little, they get to let loose just a little bit more with the barbaric stuff here. But this is written by Jim Zub, and the interior art, the cover here. This one's Dan Panosian. There also are many variant covers for this, and more to come. Apparently, this is not all. There's a lot more to come. But this is the A cover here by Dan Panosian. The interior art is done by Roberto De La Torre and Chef's Kiss. He's doing kind of a homage to John Buscema for his art. So it
Okay.
looks like old school Marvel art, like after Barry Windsor Smith did the original issues, and then John
The
Buscema took
Savage
over.
Sword stuff, the black and white. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's in color, but it's like,
Right. Oh, I can't wait to get
So,
my hands on that one.
yeah, and I got you the Dan Panosian one there because we
Thank
didn't
you.
have very many. We didn't pick very many variants on that one. We picked a few, but there's a ton of the Fire and Ice ones, but it's crazy. Um, yeah, but and the Fire and Ice is written by Bill Willingham, and the interior art is done by the great Leonardo Manco. So again,
Okay.
chef's kiss. So fantasy fans have a lot to celebrate in the comic book world this week here, because yeah, those two are just
That is
good,
awesome.
good, good
Bill
stuff
Willingham
here.
is the Fables guy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so he
So
knows his fantasy stuff.
yeah, but the Jim Zub Conan stuff is just it's yeah, it's a really good storyline, but just it hits on so many Conan levels. So I mean, it's there's so many people that were surprised that like Marvel gave up the rights so quickly. It's like yeah, I was too, but then again, it's like they kind of had their fun with him a little bit. Jason Aaron had a great run with the 25 issue Conan series, 8 issues of Savage Sword, and then I think it was like a 4 or 5 issue King Conan
Yeah.
miniseries. So he did all that stuff, and then they did like sticking Conan in the modern day with the Savage Avengers and stuff like that. So that was just a great moment, just to have the him sitting across the table from Doctor Doom, just like he just kind of stashed up in Doom's castle, and he's like just sitting there eating a meal, having a grand old time, slurping away, doing things, and Doom kind of like throws him a couple of insults, and then like Conan throws him like a couple of insults right back into his face, and Doom's kind of like, okay, yeah, I like this guy.
Maybe I need to give
uh,
that more of a shot. Like the Conan purist in me is like has avoided that Marvel run like the plague. Like I've actually gone back through and reread a bunch of the Savage Sword stuff and like the reprints I thought they did were pretty great. Like I
oh
was
yeah,
glad they got that. Uh
no, the
but
I mean, the modern day stuff was was fine. because they lost the rights. They actually had to kill him off. So technically, in the Marvel universe, Conan's dead, or an iteration of him is dead, while there's still another iteration of him running around doing fantasy things in the ancient world. But
Right.
what
Yeah.
happens? If you want to just stick to the regular, like according to Hoyle Conan stuff here, the Jason Aaron run's good. So yeah, I
Okay.
liked it. Yeah, and Hassan Rabbinic does the covers to a lot of the books, and he does some of the interior art. And I can't remember who uh, does the rest of it, but they had a good team. And then, strangely enough, Jim Zub took over a little bit in the. I think he like guested in a couple of times, and then he also wrote some of the Savage Sword stuff as well. So it's cool that basically that Jim did that stuff, and now he's over at Titan writing the main series. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so we got a couple of take two. We got a couple of comments already. As soon as my tongue gets untied here, Diamond Dave Mattingly chiming in. Hello, sir. Becci also rotoscoped on American Pop and Cool World. Yes, he did. Yeah, I love American Pop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I've never actually seen American Pop. I need to. That's actually the second time that one's been mentioned around me lately. So I guess that's some kind of
interesting.
trend. I need to check that out.
It's really cool. It's this whole kind of like generational story of basically American music,
Yeah.
and so like basically each generation there's a guy who tries to make it big in the music business and ultimately kind of fails, and then we get to the modern day, which at this point the modern day is probably like the late 70s, early 80s. And so there's a guy basically like kind of doing like a singer songwriter kind of thing like that. So of course it uses a lot of music of the times that basically go in. So yeah, very cool.
Okay.
There was a wonderful period of film animation that came out that was basically like the late 70s, a little bit going into the early 80s that has yet to ever be repeated. Um, that
Yeah.
just some really groundbreaking stuff. Ralph actually did some really cool trippy movies that are like, the midnight releases, sort of stuff that, you watch, like the late night stuff or whatever else. And then he kind of went on to do the American Tail movies and
He was the
kind of,
American Tail guy too.
oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
And yeah. And then Don Bluth basically went on to do, like the Secret
Land
of
Before Time.
Nim,
Yeah.
and then yeah, the Land Before Time series. So eventually, they made their art when they were young, and they're like, okay, now we need to make some money. Let's go to the kids.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Dragon's Lair ain't paying the bills anymore.
yeah, yeah, but that's
And I'm sorry
good.
if I start flailing around. There is a fly that is around here somewhere that keeps like dive bombing me, and like I can feel it like at the back of my head, and like I just so if I start to spaz out, like it's not like it's cool. I'm just trying to swat a fly. Like,
Okay, not a problem here.
all
And
right.
trying to see who this. For whatever reason, it's not identifying this person. It's just saying Facebook user, but it's saying howdy howdy. So howdy to
Howdy,
you.
howdy, Facebook user.
Yeah, I can't tell who this is, but thanks for watching. How's it going? Good to see you. Dave Mattingly also chiming in saying the Savage Avengers was great. Conan, so yeah, exactly. So as Conan's slurping away, having a great time, with his meal there, and basically, Conan, Doom's like, I think he calls him like an uncouth pig, or you really are a barbarian or something like that, and then basically Conan kind of looks up and looks at him, he's like, oh, you're wearing a mask, and I was like, yeah, I was like, why are you wearing a mask? Oh, because I got you know, injured and blah blah. It's like, oh, so you're vain, huh? And he said Doom's kind of just like just sits there for a second. He's like, just kind of, he's kind of just locks his gaze with Conan, and he's kind of, no, he just doesn't say anything. So yeah, it's like
Right.
it's a
That's all,
great,
yeah.
a great moment. It's like for anything, it was fun to have the Conan the Barbarian in the modern times and modern Marvel continuity for like, if anything, just for that moment. It's like Doom likes guys that could put him in his place, I guess. I don't know. Oh, anywho, so we're going to take a short break for our sponsor, Comic Books for Kids. But then when we come back, it's time to talk wrestling, and we got a lot to talk about here. So
All
we'll be
right.
back. Yes, sir. We'll be back in just a moment.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
And we are back. All right.
And again, I want to apologize before the break. That was my deaf cat that you might have heard howling into here. It is around their goodie time, so now they're all a little restless. And I'm sorry, every time you have me on the show, I have to explain why there's all these bizarre noises coming from my house. But yeah.
Normally, I mean, the girls want to pop in and say hey on the chat as well. I'm surprised they haven't. So, especially Carol Ann, she enjoys being seen by her public. So, yeah, you don't need to apologize for the fur babies, whether they be large or small. So I know every now and then I'll see Moxley's tail, running back and forth. So
yeah, most of the time he's pretty cool. He'll just walk back and forth. But yeah, when Mika just, she comes in, she can't hear herself, of course. So she just at the top of her little kitty lungs, just,
Oh no. I love that. I've had deaf cats before growing up, and I always think it's hilarious. They just scream at the top of their lungs to announce they have entered the room.
Yes,
Please notice
exactly.
me. I don't know where I am, and don't step on me either. So
yeah, 3 a.m. whenever she's just bored, and then you wake up and right by your head, like Godzilla, just blasting nuclear meow breath at you. But anyway, I'm sorry. As Taz would say, I digress.
No, you're good, man. Oh man! So of course we are talking wrestling today here on the Fanatic Forum here. Of course, we'll get to our topic in just a bit here, but we've got a loaded weekend of wrestling.
Yeah, we really do. We were talking about this before the show started. I didn't realize it because I'm an idiot. That Saturday we're going to have to choose between SummerSlam or Collision.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of a hard choice.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, like I was saying, for me, there's only really a couple of the big main event matches that I care about. Cody and Brock, Roman and Jay. I want to see Gunther retain, his belt. I'm not. The only thing I think it would be kind of cool is like if this battle royal they're supposed to have, if LA Knight wins and then he gets like a U.S. title cash in, and then he becomes the U.S. champion.
Yeah.
That would be because it's one of those situations where it's like they got to listen to the fans, and the fans obviously love LA Knight.
Mm-hmm.
We need a bigger push with him. It's like he's getting close to outselling the Bloodline merch. So
yeah. I'm actually surprised that he has skyrocketed as quick as he has. Well, if I say as quick as he has, and like it feels weird, like being aware of him like years ago in Impact and things, but just to see how far he has come in that time and to overcome stupid gimmicks like the Max Dupree thing, to still be able to still be, I have sometimes I still have trouble calling him Eli Drake or not calling him Eli Drake because that was
I know I'm the same way.
yeah, but he's still that character just with just a different name. That's it,
But at least they still got the right. They still was able to get a cadence down of still because
yeah.
he was Eli Drake, so he could still be LA Knight. So there you go.
Yeah, they worked the name into the gimmick and everything, and bravo for him. I mean, if it's working, I'm no hate on my end. It's just a little difficult for me sometimes still to turn that off because he's just so much of that same character.
And I don't think it feels a little sudden, but at the same time, like he's worked for this. He has suffered through some bad gimmicks, but I think it's one of those situations where people can still see the fans have seen his talent. They see what he's about, and like we like this guy, we want to push him to the moon. Give us what we want.
Right. Exactly.
I'm happy for him because I've liked him just like you. I've liked him since I saw him in Impact. Then I went back and kind of seen him in some other things too. And interesting factoid, I saw a meme pop up. The last person that Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, managed before he passed away was LA Knight.
Really?
Yeah, he was of course still Eli Drake. I think he was wrestling for, it wasn't PWG, but it was somebody in LA that he was wrestling under. But because that's where I think he was in Southern, or wrestling, somewhere in Southern California like that, and then basically he got picked up by Impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last person that Percy Pringle managed before he passed away was Eli Drake.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
It's the stars are all coming together. So, all right. So there is, of course, we were talking about SummerSlam, of course, and Collision. That's our thing. I'm probably going to watch Collision, and then I will watch SummerSlam on Sunday and kind of fast forward to the matches I don't care about.
Yeah, I'm probably actually going to do that too, because it's easier to catch SummerSlam again than a repeat of Collision.
Yeah,
so,
and probably SummerSlam, and since that's now kind of a WrestleMania-sized event, that may be close to a 4-hour show. So
yeah, so that is true. By the time Collision will go off, and it may still run until midnight, especially where it's a Saturday show too.
Yeah, so I mean, we may, you may get, two birds, one stone. So
yeah.
You can watch Collision and then basically catch the end of SummerSlam, see what all the good stuff is.
Yeah, and then I can just jump back to the beginning if I need to.
There you go. See, it all works out. Then AEW's got a loaded end of the month because we've got the Wembley Stadium show All In on August 27th. And then they got to turn right back around and do All Out. And I can't remember where that's coming from. I don't remember where that is. Anyway, but that's September 3rd. So, of course, the big question is like, what's going to be on the card for Wembley Stadium? Right now, we only have one match, which they announced on Dynamite, which is MJF versus Adam Cole the AEW. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not like, well, it's like, what else is going to be on that show and what's going to be on All Out? So,
which they already have one match according to Wikipedia, which is Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin for the TNT title, and Christian Cage is of course with Luchasaurus, but yeah, I think it's weird that that's already just planned for All Out, but I don't know.
I mean,
nobody pays me to book wrestling, so
yeah, but it's so weird how basically like they're really jazzed about their ticket sales for All In because this is their first show in London. So that's going to be a big draw, but it's like that's in a couple of weeks now. It's like we've only got one match on the card so far. It's like, okay, well, it's like, so that there's some rumors that like we may have like one or two marquee matches, and then the rest of it might just be like a glorified house show. So
I can see that.
Yeah, so I guess like they don't want to do. They want to have like a lot of stuff for the crowd there, being their first London show, but then they also don't want to blow everything and not have anything left for All Out the following week. Right. So, yeah, which is their other, I was like, All Out's their big pay-per-view. So, we shall see. So, but yeah, we alluded to it at the beginning of the show here, but a little more troubles for this guy.
Yeah.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon, mustachio villain.
Yeah.
So apparently he had a federal subpoena. Basically he was, sent that, and there was apparently a search of his home or something like that by federal authorities. And this all happened like earlier in July. And essentially I think it was announced at the like quarterly financial call, something like that WWE does. So basically, they
had something they had to disclose. Yeah,
but it's like, how did like no one else pick up on that story? But then WWE finally got to break it like weeks later. So just
Oh, and then the response to McMahon's response to WWE's internal investigation. Did you see that?
No.
About the sexual misconduct stuff, where basically he said like, yeah, we investigated ourselves and we thought we handled it pretty good, so we're gonna go on now. And like that was all the statement was. Really, it was a paraphrase, but I'm not too far off.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that just makes me feel a whole lot better.
Yeah,
So
you know,
yeah. So
just,
because
just take my word for it. We're good. Don't worry about it.
we're okay.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine like
Because
a restaurant manager like telling the health inspector like, "Oh yeah, all those violations. Yeah, we took care of them. You just take my word for it. You don't have to look at it. It's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we took care of it ourselves."
yeah. We're good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't mind that mole over there. That'll take care of itself. The silverfish will eat it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm sure there's more to come because initially this turned out was an internal investigation with the company over hush money payments that McMahon made to former aides or interns or whatever else that he may have had some sort of illicit affair with and was just trying to pay them off to keep them quiet. And then somebody talked and whatever else. So,
Right.
but if the feds are involved, there's something bigger that's in play here because they, if it's an internal investigation, they don't care about that sort of thing like that. But if there's federal charges involved, then maybe there is some money troubles going on here. So,
Man, I'm just yeah, there's all kinds of crazy things. Like what if the WWE empire just crumbles because of this? Like we fought like some kind of like Jim and Tammy Faye Baker level scandal that just like destroys McMahon.
well, and see, the thing is, I mean, the sale to Endeavor isn't like it's gonna happen, but it isn't like 100% a done deal yet. So it's
Yeah.
like, could that fall apart because of any sort of federal charges or anything brought about Vince or the company, or is this, or maybe it won't affect the company and like Vince is just completely removed. So basically, it'll be literally a WWE not owned by Vince and not run by Vince either because he's too busy battling the feds. It's like
Right.
there's a lot of what ifs.
Right.
But yeah, so a lot of that going on. And of course, he's had some kind of spinal surgery, so Vince is technically on medical leave right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
indefinite medical leave, which I thought was really, really a weird way to say it.
yeah,
Like,
which basically
yeah,
means like, okay, he's had like all this other stuff go on before the spinal surgery. Vince is going to take some time off again here.
yeah.
Try to exit stage right, as old Snaggletooth would say. So
What if this is like him trying to make himself into like a robot body or whatever so that he can prolong his life and, still like manage WWE of 200 years from now? Like he's just going to bury Tony Khan in 70 years just by outlasting him.
I think what it is, it's someone on Vince's staff reads comic books, is an X-Men fan. They see the resurrection protocols, the Xavier protocols, and stuff like that, and so Vince has his consciousness downloaded into a hard drive that's updated on a regular basis, ready to resurrect Vince into clone bodies whenever they so choose. So I
I
think
would
they've
I would believe that. Yeah, I believe
I,
that.
yeah, I think Vince got some people on that has mastered the cloning technology that the X-Men have done in the comics. So yeah, you're right. Vince will live in perpetuity in clone bodies, so he will never
Yeah. Yeah.
die. Oh god, I was hoping he gets rid of the mustache though.
He never will
Because
now.
it's like it just no. This isn't right. This is not a good look for any human being. So
No.
all right, enough shenanigans. So our topic for today here, we're half hour in here. That's awesome. Topic for today is what is your all-time top 5 favorite wrestling tag teams? So I gave Seth this daunting task here to pick his 5 favorites. We're not necessarily looking for the best of the best. We're looking for your favorites. And before we get into our discussion, I had a couple of comments. So we got to give some shouts to other people's lists here.
All
Jay
right.
Martin, his picks were the Rock and Roll Express, the Bushwhackers, the Road Warriors, the Usos, and the
All right.
Brainbusters. Yeah, interesting pick with the Brainbusters. I like them versus when Arn and Tully were in the Four Horsemen. So Interesting tip.
See, I thought about the Brainbusters too, but I was more of a Four Horsemen Arn and Tully fan.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, like Brainbusters, they were making a lot more money than they were at Crockett, which is saying a lot because the Horsemen made a lot of money back in the day.
Yeah.
But they made even more money going to the WWE. But it just wasn't quite the same without Flair and then whatever fourth member you want, whether it be Ole Anderson, Barry Windham, whatever the case may be. So
like Luger.
Yeah, Luger. The less said about Paul Roma, the better.
Yeah.
And Kevin Riedel, he's got his picks here, and he decided he wanted to go with kind of a current generation pick here, so the last 20 years or so for tag teams here. But number one for him is FTR, and I would agree with that. They're fantastic.
Okay, all right.
His other top five roundouts here are the New Day. Again, another for the Usos, the Lucha Brothers, and the Young Bucks.
All solid picks.
Yeah. So you're definitely a big fan of the Bucks. So, but I like Kenny Omega. The Bucks, like they're I think I think as they're getting older, they really need to kind of adapt their style to their age because a lot of the stuff they do looked a lot better like when they were earlier, like in their 20s and their early 30s, but now they're getting closer to 40. It's like, dudes.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. I don't know. I used to not be so hot on the Young Bucks at all, and I used to kind of be kind of angry about them existing for some reason. And then it was just kind of like, well, they are kind of fun. And then I started to appreciate them a lot more in AEW, like just seeing them, I think, more consistently and in different styles of matches because they have done different. They have stepped out of their comfort zones, I believe, in AEW quite a bit. But yeah.
Oh, Dave Mangley's got a good pick here. So, hang on. So he said that he's never been much of a pro wrestling guy, but his favorite luchador team is El Santo and the Blue
Demon. I love it. Oh,
bravo.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm a huge El Santo and Blue Demon fan. Just like I love the idea that they're like these wrestling like demigods that are just still huge in Mexico. That you can just say the name and it's instant imagery. Like I love it. I'm actually working on a project that I'm trying to use like that style of luchador storytelling in and it's like I've been trying to put it together for a little while, so that's just I like geeking out over luchador stuff. I'm a big Lucha Underground fan too, but yeah.
Well, you and I both, that's the great thing about with El Santo especially, it's like he and Blue Demon were such big lucha libre icons, but then like they started doing movies and El Santo versus the Great Satan. And sometimes they team up together or whatnot. And then, of course, sometimes Blue Demon, had a heel turn back in the day, too.
Yeah.
So he went, so that was huge when Blue Demon went heel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was what I really loved about them was that they would do movies as their wrestling characters. And I so wish that like, I think they're leaving money on the table by having like current wrestlers not do the same thing, like just being completely in character, but have like some kind of weird over the top movie that just involves them needing to be their character for some reason. Or maybe not even have to be that, maybe have Brian Cage in a romantic comedy. I might watch that, where he's himself. I just love this idea that like you've got these already kind of stylized comic book style superheroes, like and WWE did it for the longest time, like putting them in action movies and stuff. Like they were basically their characters. But yeah, like do that now. Do those old lucha libre movie style of things.
I know, those old Mexican exploitation films. Like, that's a fantastic idea. And Dave says that even though he's out of town on vacation, he still has his luchador mask with him. So I guess Dave's ready to get in the ring. Oh, and Seth's got his behind him too. Look at that. See, I'm missing out. I don't have a luchador mask. Troy Beams chiming in. Hey, Troy. Says his new pick is the Adam Cole MJF, the team he didn't know he needed. I agree. Those guys are fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you don't know about it, there's like an hour-long supercut on YouTube of all the Adam Cole MJF friendship promos. And I think they keep adding to it. Like I think there was like another super long one too. I could be wrong on that. I could have misread it, but there's at least the hour-long one from before last week, which was great.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they're a lot of fun because you know it's like, okay, I guess, MJF, who's famously a bad guy, he might be turning good, but then again, you're also expecting at some point maybe he's going to turn on Adam Cole. But then there's also speculation like, will Adam Cole turn heel, perhaps? And basically, he and MJF become the best of friends, but then they're bad guys. Or there's so many possibilities, so many ways they're going to go. But yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch, and it's a lot of fun. And getting the entire crowd to go pop like crazy for a double clothesline.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fun to me. Troy also chiming in saying that Darby and Sting is a reimagining of Thelma and Louise.
Okay, all right. Okay, for real, imagine that though. Imagine that. So it's Darby and Sting as in character, so dead serious as Thelma and Louise, like as a shot for shot remake of it. You know, how awesome would that be? Would that not change the tone of the movie at all? Wouldn't it be so? Yeah, I mean, I can see it. Like it could be like some dark, bizarre, twisted love revenge flick just that way. I mean, there's some scenes
Yeah.
you might need to rework. Not gonna lie on that one. But
you would have to like the Brad Pitt, like the hottie that they pick up and then ditch,
yeah,
something like that. So you'd have to you have to do a gender switch on that one.
yeah.
I guess I guess
I mean,
Darby's straight. I don't know.
you
I
wouldn't
don't
have
know.
to, but you know, it's
Well, I mean,
you
I
know,
don't know anything
yeah,
about his. I mean, I know Sting's straight. He's married and got kids and whatnot, but I don't know what Darby's sexual orientation is. So I'm assuming, Anyway, but so you have to get a hot girl for them to pick up and hang out with for a little bit, and then like, we gotta go and drive off a cliff. Whatnot. So, but that I know Troy's onto something there. That's I'd pay money to watch that. Kevin Riedel chiming in. Hey, Kevin, we were just talking about your list here. He says that his prediction is a double turn at Wembley Stadium.
Ooh.
But here's the thing, though. The rub is that Roderick Strong, who is basically Adam Cole's buddy and feels spurned that basically he's not included in the friendships or that basically he thinks that, MJF's going to turn on Cole. So it's like, is there a potential that basically MJF goes full face and then Roderick Strong turns on Cole and MJF, and then basically he ends up teaming with this the Kingdom, because we saw a little interaction on Dynamite between Roderick and the Kingdom, and they're kind of like bugging his ear. So I don't know.
What if MJF is actually playing it straight this time? What if that's the entire swerve? Like, what if he's not the one that does the turns or anything? He's been legit. That turns Roderick Strong into the jealous one. And
then basically Cole ends up turning on MJF and picking Roderick over MJF.
Boom. Yeah.
Okay, and then basically we get a whole we get a heel Cole and then a face MJF face off. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is a face MJF fun?
Well, I like a face MJF better than I do a face Adam Cole, because Adam Cole is much better a heel than he is a face.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
I never buy him as a face. He's just one of those guys, like he's got a punchable face, and even when he's because he's a nice guy in real life, but in wrestling, he's kind of like he's got that smarmy heel thing down really well. So when you know him as a heel so much, it's hard to buy him as a face because of that.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion on that.
I can see that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Troy says that Roderick Strong's going to boil MJF's rabbit. Yeah, there's definitely a fatal attraction thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh
or
man, okay. Imagine
this is,
while we're talking about the movies, imagine a Fatal Attraction remake that is MJF, Cole, and Roderick Strong, and they're just in character redoing the plot
the
of Fatal
stuff writes
Attraction.
itself.
It does.
Hollywood, where
It
are you?
does.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, cool.
Wait. Am
Good.
I giving them free content during a strike or something? I don't want like SAG to ever cancel me or anything. Like,
No, I mean, we're not getting paid for this either, so
yeah, that's true. Okay.
At least not yet. I don't know. So, well,
Yeah.
Troy, you better call your agent, man. You're onto something.
Yeah, for real.
Kevin Riedel says Cole knocks backs out with a roll of quarters. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, making a reference to when Max is the kids are bullying him and having to pick up the quarters and making racial slurs at him because he's Jewish.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, I get the call back. All right, nice. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of cementing the heel turn. Basically throwing that. Oh, here's your quarters. And I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna. Throw out Jewish slurs
Right.
on
Yeah.
pay
Probably
per view.
probably be a bad idea to do that.
It's fine if Max says it, because he's repeating stuff that happened to him and he's Jewish. But
Right.
I don't think Cole is. I think he's in the Gentile category. So
I believe you're right. I believe you're right. If you would believe, never mind. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to our tag teams here that we're talking about because we have got sidetracked on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. So, in no particular order, we're going to
Yeah.
start with.
45 minutes after the show starts, we're going to get to the topic.
Well, we're talking wrestling, so we've talked a lot about wrestling, but now we're getting specifically in here.
Yeah, that
And we
is
got
true. Yeah.
and our other friends have chimed in on the comments here, so we've got some lists before, but now we're getting to our lists here. So
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Anyway, so you had, of course, some fantastic picks here, old school and new school here. But we got a couple of pictures here for your first tag team, the classic Midnight Express here.
Yes,
So
Dennis and Bobby with, of course, my personal friend Jim Cornette. I have to throw that out there. Every once in a while.
that's a cool flex there. That the king of the podcasting world, James E. Cornette, is a personal friend of yours, and so anytime I run into him, I'm like, hey, I'm a friend of Seth's. Oh yeah. So he's like,
Yeah, I have told him your name multiple times, and he has
well,
remembered. Now, I honestly, I got to be honest with my flex. Like, yes, I do know Jim Cornette. I have not spoken to him in years, though. But like,
right.
yeah, but yeah,
But you did get to help him research one of his books. So
yeah.
yeah.
If there was like a big life event, I could call him and be like, "Hey, congratulations" or whatever. Like,
Well, sure, yeah. Actually, as a matter of fact, there was one of my old podcast. You and I were doing that at a convention, and he did a run in on us and
yeah,
cut a promo. Remember that?
yes, he did. That was great.
That was beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, and he still did it. I was so proud of him because he did it without actually swearing or anything.
No, I
Like,
was so
and it was,
shocked.
yeah, and it was just like it was an art. Like he immediately knew that it was for television, and that went into that.
Well, he's a professional. He knows which medium he's in. So
Yeah, yeah,
but I was I was surprised and also not surprised at the same time. But yeah, it was a dream. I mean,
yeah,
I was fortunate enough back in the day to work security for one of OVW's when they would do a quarterly show at the Louisville Gardens. They would have some of the WWE people come in and do matches with the OVW folks. So I was fortunate enough to work security at one of those shows. And at one point during the show, myself and the other security people were not doing a good enough job to clear the entranceway of journalists. And I got yelled at. Actually, all of us in a circle were yelled at by Jim, and it was fantastic. He called us lots of things. I mean, like we're in like an arena full of music and people and wrestling and everything going on. He's yelling at us. We can hear every word he says. Yeah, it was fantastic. I've never been so proud to be yelled at by someone here, but yeah.
That is great.
I love it. I tell him that story every time I see him too. I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
He gets a chuckle out of it.
Oh yeah. I have no doubt.
And then, of course, if we're going to talk about the Midnight Express here and the classic lineup of beautiful Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, we also got to talk about the lineup that includes Stan Lane.
Oh yeah, and that's one of those. And the Midnight Express is like they're one of my picks because of partially because I know Jim Cornette now. But no, growing up too, watching them, knowing that they were the bad guy team, that
Yeah.
they were both legitimate threats. If it was like both Condrey and Eaton and Stan Lane and Eaton, like
Yeah.
both variations of the team synced in not the same way, but complementary ways that still allowed them to operate as a tag team. And yeah, I believe Bobby stayed with WCW. That's why he didn't go to Smoky Mountain, if I remember correctly. And and then even you can kind of tell whenever it becomes Dr. Tom. Love Dr. Tom Pritchard to death, but when it becomes him and Stan, it just doesn't quite work with the Heavenly Bodies. And it's definitely not the Midnight Express. It's not that lethal, dangerous tag team that you're genuinely afraid of to you don't know like what they would do outside of the ring. Like they're just as likely to jump you outside of the ring and do something conniving that way,
Yeah.
like while you're on the road, as opposed to doing it in the ring. And then that made people want to see them get destroyed by the baby faces. That's why they were such good heels. But yeah, my
and the interesting
grandfather
thing,
absolutely despised them too. Despised them. It was great.
well, and the interesting thing too is that the Midnight Express even had a face turn as well for a little bit of time. And so there's at one point where the Midnight were good
Yeah.
guys and it still worked. Like somehow, like one of the most popular, bad guy teams, the people that you love to hate, and you had the manager that everybody loved to hate because, Jim
Yeah.
Cornette is, Jimmy Hart may be the mouth of the South as his gimmick, but the real mouth of the South is
Yeah.
Jim Cornette.
Yeah. I mean, he's a master orator. And I say that
Yes.
with no hyperbole. He is a grandmaster hyperbole orator. Yeah.
Yeah, the man has two podcasts that go like at least 3 hours each, and he does that twice a week. It's like it's glorious stuff. So yeah, so he's my podcasting idol right now. Having his numbers would be friggin' awesome, but
Oh yeah.
he's earned that too. He's got a lot more credibility in the wrestling world than I do. So all
Yeah.
right. Your next team, another classic one here. And I was able to get all the members on one photo here. But another famous bad guy team, the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yes, I love me some Freebirds. Like Michael Hayes and Bam Bam, like as a tag team, that like those two are just, I'm words really can't describe it. Like Bam Bam was the muscle, and Michael was a fantastic wrestler, but the mindset, the psychology that he put behind the stuff, especially to make you love him and then
Or
hate him. Yeah, and then immediately hate him, like what they were doing with the Von Erichs. And the Jimmy Garvin stuff, that don't get me wrong, I don't despise Jimmy Garvin, but he's not
the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It's like, it's why we didn't talk about the new Midnight Express when we're talking about the Midnight Express. But
Exactly,
but I gotta give much credit to Michael Hayes, that keeping the Freebirds together as they were, even like like once a Freebird, always a Freebird, and yeah, especially they have a rule named after them.
Exactly, because
for the third man.
They were because the classic team here of Terry Bam Bam Gordy here on the left in the cowboy hat, Michael P.S. Hayes with a fantastic hair, and then Buddy Roberts there in the center. They were a 3-man team, and so you didn't know which two you were going to get. They'd switch around a little bit before the match, and all of a sudden, like, okay,
Right.
now I gotta, and the thing is, like, Michael had the psychology, he had the flair and the personality, whereas Buddy Roberts was the technical wrestler and a legit tough guy. Like, you just did not mess with Buddy Roberts. I mean, he was a small guy too compared to Terry, who was like just a monster. So, and
Yeah.
a great big man too in the ring. So,
Yeah, once Terry got in the ring, it was just, it was all over. Like,
yeah.
it just and I loved hearing him talk too, just that weird southern drawl. Like,
Oh my God,
well, Michael.
yeah. But yeah, it's like, they had a WCW run that was, great as well, but like
Yeah.
their world class championship wrestling, if you guys have never seen any of their stuff in Texas, when they're basically the classic bad guys taking on the Von
Yeah.
Erich
Oh,
family,
man.
I
I think
know,
that's all on Peacock. You can check that all out. Because, yeah, even Buddy Roberts in that too. Yeah, I can't like I didn't mention him earlier, but yeah, even his contribution was, he was the older mentory kind of,
right.
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Hayes and Gordy were the young guys. Roberts was the older guy, but so he didn't wrestle as much. He was sometimes more like the outside, but yeah,
yeah,
nonetheless, still very
oh
dangerous.
yeah, yeah,
And definitely one of the most classic dangerous tag teams. I mean, probably they always would win the award for most threatening looking tag team here, and I had to get this old school picture here. The Road Warriors
oh
with
yeah,
their
with
manager
Paul
Precious Paul.
Ellering,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
So tell
yeah.
us about
Oh,
these cats here.
okay, so Hawk and Animal, like when you see these guys in the ring, they're just like in my first exposure to them is like they're synonymous with my first imagining of the word wrestling is the
Mm-hmm.
Road Warriors. That's how ingrained they are because they're just these giant superheroes come to life that just they pick people up and move them where they them to or want them to go, and they're unstoppable, and they're gonna destroy whatever is in their path. They got cool face paint and they come out to the awesome music,
Yeah,
and they're just, yeah. And just the whole thing is like when you're like an 8-year-old boy or whatever, these are like, yes, things do not get better than this. And yeah, oh, even the finisher, man, I'm sorry, like, yeah, Hawk Animal. Hawk is the one with the hair in on the
yeah, the tongue
sides.
sticking out there, and
Yeah, and the tongue. Animal is the one with the more sterner look on their face. One thing that I remember them discussing in the WWE documentary was their hair looked like they had headbutted each other, and one had gotten the mohawk, and the other had gotten the
the
side
reverse
pieces.
mohawk.
Yeah,
I remember that too. Yeah, that works. But
yeah,
yeah, they're what's the oh god, what's the their fish
the Doomsday Device.
yeah, Doomsday Device. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah,
basically, Animal, basically who is they're almost the same height, but Hawk was just a tiny bit taller, and he was more of kind of the skinnier of the two. Whereas Animal, I mean, they're both Chicago badasses, but I mean, Animal is a linebacker through and through, or a blocker. I don't
right.
know. He's a giant football dude. He would basically take the wrestler of the victim of choice and have him hoisted on his shoulders, whereas Animal would come off the top rope of the ring with a clothesline and nail this guy. So he'd basically get nailed once by Hawk with the
Hmm.
clothesline and then have to drop back on his back at the height. Basically, Animal had him up of his, about at least 6 feet up there. So
Yeah,
yeah, so the Doomsday Device, a classic tag team move used by many tag teams over and over again as an homage to them. But
yes. Which we
yeah,
will come back to again in my list in a moment. Uh, on the finisher. But yeah. No, yeah, the Doomsday Device, that was incredible. And to tie them back with another one of my favorite tag teams, they were also involved in one of my favorite matches of all time, the scaffold
mhm.
match of Starrcade 86, where the Midnight Express wrestled the Road Warriors in a scaffold match, and that was the one where it was Hawk had the broken leg, And you could see him hobbling up on the scaffold. And the scaffold is huge over the ring. And the finish is supposed to be where Cornette dangles off the scaffold and then falls, and Big Boss Man catches it. He's not Big Boss Man, but
Big Bubba.
Big Bubba. Yeah, Big Bubba is supposed to catch him. Big Bubba don't catch him. He falls and he drops and breaks his legs, basically.
He blew out both knees or something.
Yeah,
Or
blew out his knees. Yeah, that was what it was. Yeah. And Big Bubba had to carry him to the back. And and the match
really
is still and the match is going on. And the match itself, even before that, it's like you're terrified, like watching this. You know someone is gonna die. And someone almost did multiple times during this match. But it's
a gimmick
it's up
that has
there. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah. I was gonna say it was like this is up there to me with Foley and Taker at Hell in a Cell. That scaffold match, like,
except though it seems like the Foley and Taker thing, there was a little more production value going on, and it seemed a little more confident of what they were doing. Whereas the scaffold match basically was a very new concept at that time. I think that was the first time it had been done. It hasn't been done often. There have been a couple. Like, I know ECW had a couple. But yeah, like WCW was a new thing for them. And really what it was, like a scaffold was literally built over top of the wrestling ring. And so the guys would have to climb up to the top and fight on top of the scaffold, which probably is, not a very, wide, area. And the idea
probably
is
not meant to sustain the weight of a human for that amount of time.
Yeah, because the Road Warriors themselves are close to 600 pounds combined.
Yeah.
And the Midnight Express were not, giants like that, but they, were probably, 400 pounds combined, maybe, or 450, something like that. So it's like, jeez.
Yeah, and then Hawk is just hobbling back on the scaffold. Like you can see him, like he's favoring his leg something fierce, like trying desperately not to have to go out to the center. Desperately. It's a match. I think that one's on Peacock. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, the Night of the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, it's an exciting match, but also like you look at some of the history about it, it's like you're lucky someone didn't get killed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So you got two more teams on here, and there are a little more recent teams here as well. Here, we were talking luchadors earlier, and probably the most popular luchador team right now in wrestling. We got to talk about the Lucha Brothers here.
Lucha Brothers. I will say this with no hyperbole. I think that the Lucha Brothers are one of the top 5 tag teams of all time.
All right.
Not just necessarily my favorite, but yeah, like I don't necessarily know where they are, like in that top 5, but I think they are of the top 5, just because of the way that they wrestle as a team, the way that their style adapts and changes, and the way that it's always fresh looking. It's like even though they use a lot of the moves, it's never. It's still they vary them up enough to where it usually feels fresh. When they wrestle each other, I've watched them wrestle each other probably it feels like 100 times, and it's not a match that I've ever gotten bored with. I just think that they're again 2 masters of their craft, and I love seeing them work with other tag teams, because especially with tag teams that really get them and work well with them. Like I think FTR works well with them.
Obviously, the Bucks have worked a lot well.
The Bucks. I'm immediately going to start talking about them and then lose who I'm trying to mention because I'm an idiot. But I just they're my favorites.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that they're exciting Lucha Libre team here. They are actual brothers here, and of course, if you're not familiar with the team here, the smaller of the two, that is Phoenix, or Fanatics, if you want. And then on the right there, that's his brother in AEW. He is Penta El Zero, or El Zero Romero, but he is more widely known as Pentagon Jr. So that's how he was in Lucha Libre and AAA, but there's some rights issues or whatnot. So
yeah, that's how I still even call him Pentagon Jr. from time to time. just because that's how I learned who he was from Lucha Underground.
Yep, that's how where we saw both of them, and I was just like, wow. And then when we find out, like, oh, they're actual brothers, they normally are team together. Like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because they're great together.
That's really cool. Yeah,
but I was loving it. Lucha Underground. Most of the time, they were on opposite sides of the ring, so it was pretty cool. So. And then your final tag team here, of course, another recent tag team here, and one that had a little more tragic history recently here. But we got to talk about Mark and Jay, the Briscoes.
Yes. Oh man, and losing Jay just broke my heart. Like, and I mean, well, I know it did with a lot of people, but like they're as a tag team, they had that old school vibe in a new school package, and they were the rough and rowdy rednecks, like they didn't care that they were rednecks, and
very proud of it.
Yeah, very proud of it, and I don't know, I kind of like I feel like I'm from Kentucky, and being someone from Kentucky, like that, I feel like people look down on Southern people, so I like seeing other Southern people, or even though they're not Southern at all, like geographically.
Well, they're
Like,
from North Dakota, so they're North Dakota rednecks.
yeah,
or is it South Dakota?
No, I thought it was Delaware, Sandy Fork, Delaware. Yeah, it's
it is Delaware. Yeah,
yeah.
North Dakota.
Yeah, Delaware rednecks, but yeah, still not very north, but but yeah, no, but it's their skill as a team. Like, the Ring of Honor website was running a sale one time, like because the Briscoes had been there for 5 years, or it was the 5-year anniversary or something. But like all the Briscoes compilations were $5 a pop, so I bought every single one of them, and just got to go through, and watch like progressively as the Briscoes went through, and their career in Ring of Honor, and watched them get better and better over time, and saw their stuff with Kevin Steen and El Generico, of course Kevin Owens now, and Sami Zayn, the Ladder Wars. If you ever get a chance, if it's, I don't know if it's on the Ring of Honor streaming stuff, but
it's probably on the Honor Club.
But that stuff's definitely worth checking out, because those are some amazing matches. Their stuff with the Kings of Wrestling, of course the dog collar matches with FTR, like that whole trilogy of matches, like it's almost sad that it's like that's two teams at the primes of their career, and it's both cut short, and we'll never see it again. And and just
and of course, if you're not familiar with it, was it probably about 6 months or so ago, Jay unfortunately was involved in a traffic accident. Basically, there was a person who was going the wrong way down the road, and head-on collision. Jay's 2 young daughters were also in the vehicle with him, but they survived, and I think they're out of the hospital now. They're back home, so they're healing and doing well. But Jay did not survive the accident, so it wasn't anything illicit or drug related or whatever else. It was just
an accident, like a random thing.
Just an accident,
but
definitely cut a great team short because of that. So and then just for fun, you had one honorable mention here, and this, of course, I've got an honorable mention as well, one that's close to my heart, but is another ill-fated team here. But you, folks, if you guys get this one here, you're our friend, because this is 2 classic wrestlers here, Jesse the Body Ventura and Rowdy Piper, who were a tag team, but never in the WWE. Please explain, Seth.
So this is from the failed pilot episode, which I believe was later recut into a movie.
It was.
And released it, because I believe that's how I saw it was on VHS. But it was it was a weird detective buddy thing where
called Tag Team.
Called Tag Team. And it was only called Tag Team because Rowdy Piper and Jesse Ventura was pro wrestlers. You could have plugged any other actor into these roles, and it would have been the same show. But other than just they don't mention it. The gimmick has nothing. I mean, the fight choreography is not great. It's not, you know,
The acting is not great.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, no, the acting is not great, and that's saying something. I know Rowdy Roddy is not known for his acting chops, but we all love They Live. We all love Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Amen.
Yeah, no one, and Jesse Ventura, of course, Predator and The Running Man. You know, infinitely quotable.
Abraxas.
Yeah, Abraxas. That, yeah, Abraxas.
Oh.
But yeah, this is in Rowdy Roddy's career. This was, if we're talking Brandon Lee's film career, with They Live being The Crow, this is Rowdy Roddy's Laser Mission.
Yeah.
That's yeah, the one that you bought for $1 at the Walmart in the checkout line in that weird public domain box.
Yeah, and to date me, I saw this when it actually aired on NBC. So
Yeah, because
that's
I
all.
think it was a movie of the week thing, or like some kind of like special that aired with like one of the Saturday night main events or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was totally. I mean, I saw the promos. Was like, yeah,
yeah.
and I watched it. And I'm like, when's it get good? When's it get
Yeah,
exciting?
I think my grandfather was how I watched most of the wrestling. My mom and I just absolutely hated it growing up, just because it was like that was all my grandfather would let us watch. Like if it was wrestling, it was on. But now I
Yeah,
love it. But I remember him specifically not watching that and refusing to, because he didn't care about, like, if they weren't in the ring, he didn't care. Like,
yeah.
so he wasn't going to watch a TV show in a minute. I
Mm.
was like,
And they
well,
weren't even
okay,
wrestlers; they were supposed to be cops.
yeah.
So yeah. Well, before we get into my list here, we've got some more comments here, and I don't want to ignore those. Elias
I know.
113, he's got his list here of top 5 tag teams, starting with Crime Time. Yes,
Yes,
R.I.P. Shad
yeah,
Gaspard.
yeah.
Yeah, I love Crime Time. They were great.
Prime Time
And
was great.
and we only got that one off like trio of them teaming up with Cena like a couple of times. Like that was a made for TV trio right there. Because
Yeah,
they made a good team, the three of them, but like between like JTG and Cena's personality, and then actually Shad, though he was kind of the quieter of the two, had good personality as well. Yeah, it's just that
yeah.
was we should have seen a lot more from them. So yeah, they were a lot of fun. Another popular pick here, the Usos. Everybody loves the Usos.
Yes, everybody. The Usos have been coming up a lot tonight. My mom
Mm-hmm.
would have actually said that the Usos were one of the best, one of her in her top 5 of all time.
And
She
I
would have
mean,
said that too.
as many tag team titles they've got in the long run they just had before they lost them to Kevin and Sammy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the proof's in
Yeah,
the pudding, man. Those guys got the gold and the stats to prove it. So
yeah. They're unstoppable. You can't fault it. Yeah, they're definitely a top tier tag team.
another newer team here, the Street Profits. You know what? I like them as a team, but I am ready for Montez Ford to go solo. We saw a little bit of that in the last Elimination Chamber, that he was involved in the match and got to have a couple of high spots and high moments there and like, oh my God, kind of stuff. I'm ready for Montez to go solo.
Yeah,
I don't want to break him up, but I don't necessarily want him to go heel or anything like that. But Montez has got some severe star power, and I think they really need to capitalize on that.
I
So
can see that.
that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah,
And
I've
then
never been real hot on the Street Profits. Like I don't know why. Like they're fine in the ring and everything, but it just never. I don't know. Like
yeah, I'm kind of the same.
yeah,
They're kind of fun. They've had some decent matches, but again, like I'm high on Montez.
yeah.
That guy's got star power. He really does. Next pick for Elias 113, Kevin and Sammy. Well, I mean, they're the current tag team
Well, yeah.
champions, but they're a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And of course, they got a lot of history together. We're all waiting for Kevin to turn on Sammy because it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. There's always gonna be a Kevin and Sammy face heel turn somewhere in the cards. Like when one of them is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, the other one will be hitting them with a chair from behind.
Hey,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Off camera, they've been great friends for decades. They're pretty much family members, sort of thing like that. But on camera, they're the most dysfunctional friends you've ever met in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, they're like Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Like 1 minute they're the best of friends, next minute they hate each other and they're murdering each other in the ring. So there you go. And the last 113's last pick here is Stone Cold and Mick Foley. Nice, a
That's
short-lived
a
tag team, but
yeah,
very successful though.
yeah, definitely a legendary one. Definitely
Yeah,
a legendary one.
but that was a great storyline too, because most of the time you had like Mick was basically trying to turn on Stone Cold because he was the corporate guy, and he was so it's kind of that transition time where he was going between from a face going back to a heel, and
Yeah,
Stone Cold was at the height of his versus Mr. McMahon stuff. So yeah, I always enjoy a good tag team too of people who don't get along. They
yeah,
shouldn't be tag team champions, but somehow they keep winning matches.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
So
and I thought that was what was so great about when Claudio was in uh, WWE. Cesaro was what he was. Wow,
yeah,
I totally forgot that he was called Cesaro. But when he was teamed with Sheamus, and they had that team where they just
the bar.
absolutely hated being,
Yeah,
the bar, yeah, and they just absolutely hated being with each other, but they were awesome.
yeah, and then they
But,
finally get to liking each other and they break up again. So
yeah, of course, yeah.
or they break them up and then whatever. So yeah, good picks, Elias. Nice. Thanks for chiming in, man. All right, now on to my 5 picks here. We can comb through one of these very quickly because, of course, one of my picks are the Road Warriors again. So,
Yes.
and I love that. I went for the a little bit later WCW look here with the big shoulder pads and stuff like that, and no Paul Ellering in this photo either. So,
No, yeah, Paul wasn't with him the whole time. Now,
yeah,
I got to meet Animal at a wrestling convention in
no
Charlotte a couple
way.
of years ago. Yes. Yeah, he was super intimidating. I just said, "Hello, sir. Thank you," and got an autograph. And then he's like, "Do you want a picture?" And I wasn't going to get a picture, but if Animal asks if I want a picture, I guess the answer is always yes.
Yes,
And
yeah.
and so then this up and puts the spikes on me and like just drops it on there. And then like Animal stands next to me and gives me like one of these things. And then like the dude just takes the picture, and then the guy lifts the shoulder spikes off of me, and they go somewhere. And then like a guy hands me my phone back, and I was just like, oh, okay, that happened. And then I ended up paying more money for something. But yeah, it was just yeah, that was my experience with Animal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's almost a little similar because I got to meet Ricky the Dragon at a convention. I think you were there too. And when you got to pose for a picture with him, he lets you hold the Intercontinental Championship, and it's his championship that he got at WrestleMania 3. It's not a replica, and it's the old style of belt, man. Like it is some severely heavy metal on a leather
Yeah.
belt, and it was an honor to get to touch that thing. So. I was shocked when he handed it to me. I'm like, "Are you sure?"
Right. Like I might drop this.
No, I wasn't gonna drop it. No, God,
No, no, no. I know, but that's what was going through my mind. Like, yeah, yeah. When
I
I
don't
met
think
our,
that wasn't gonna
yeah,
touch the ground.
yeah. No, I met Arn Anderson a couple of years ago too at one of the TV or show conventions that we were at. And like, yeah, he had the old TBS TV title from the NWA days. And like, he was like, "Here, hold this, and give me a 4." And it was like, "Yes, sir."
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Well, another one of my big picks here, and basically this was Vince's version of the Road Warriors when he couldn't actually get the Road Warriors, but we got to talk about Demolition here. The
Uh
X,
huh.
the Smasher. I love these guys. And up until the Usos broke their streak, they were the longest running tag team in WWE. It was like 600 and some odd days or whatnot. So the Usos broke that record. But yeah,
That's
the
right.
original,
Yeah.
they were. And this thing is, they are very similar gimmick to the Road Warriors. Big dudes, leather spikes, painted faces, heavy metal music coming down the ring. But yeah, the funny thing was when he actually did get the Road Warriors in the very early '90s, he was done with Demolition. It's like, bye Demolition. See, I got the real thing later.
Yeah, that was I was actually one of the I was listening to Bruce Pritchard kayfabe commentaries on YouTube. They're doing like mashups of like the
Mm-hmm.
90s, like, and there's like one with Pritchard and Cornette talking about like believe it's 1990 in WCW and
Okay.
WWE at the same time. and they talk about the Road Warriors coming to WWE in '90 and Demolition like leaving, and Sean Oliver asked Pritchard about it. Pritchard's like, "Yeah, whatever. We really didn't think about him. We're like ever really wrestling each other or something like that." like
It's
why
like,
not?
are you kidding? Yeah, it's like that was.
Yeah,
We were all waiting for that to happen, and then it didn't. And then of course, by the time Axe had retired, so it was smash and crush. But nonetheless, it's like, why this never happened, I don't know.
yeah.
And of course, my favorite fun fact: the theme that Demolition came to the ring was written and performed by Rick Derringer of Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo fame. So basically, Rick Derringer is responsible for two of the greatest wrestling themes of all time. The other one being Hulk Hogan's "Real American,"
Which is
so
a catchy as all get out song.
I just think Rick knows some rock and roll hits, and he may have only had Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo on the radio that everybody knows, but wrestling fans know him well. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
he did many other there was the follow up that Hogan had when he went to WCW American Made, also Rick Derringer.
Wow.
It wasn't performed by Rick Derringer. It was sung by somebody else, but Rick wrote that one as well. Trying to think what else. He had another one that wasn't as popular. It may have been something that they were going to use for Hacksaw. They didn't, or I don't know. But he had like four, themes. But of course, but the two big ones were Demolition and Hogan's. So
Yeah.
So there you go. So old Mr. Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo has got one heck of a wrestling pedigree there for his wrestling themes. Well, you mentioned one of your favorite tag teams of all time, old school, were the Midnight Express. We got to talk about their rivals, the Rock and Roll Express, baby. Woo! Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is one of the classic rivalries right there.
Oh, Ricky Morton on the left there, and Robert Gibson on the right. I mean, they were very, very briefly in the WWE, but they are best known as longtime NWA Tag Team Champions. They were in the Crockett era WCW, and then Smoky Mountain Wrestling and lots of other wrestling places. But these guys are legends, and they are still out there doing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they still with the NWA right now? And
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
Billy Corgan's NWA. But yeah, these two, I mean, it's with some of the rivalries they've had too, like with the Midnight Express, with the Heavenly Bodies and Smoky Mountain. That was actually one hell of a rivalry that they did together. I'm not so much familiar with the WWE work. I know they were in there for a hot minute, and
basically there was like a kind of a shared thing. They were trying to bring over some. Basically, Memphis was trying to, I think it was like when King was over in WWE, he was trying to help Memphis out a little bit, and so he was trying to get some
okay,
Memphis people over there. And then there was also a little bit of a Smoky Mountain crossover as well, and a little bit of a trade off as well. And so basically,
that's
Rock and
right,
Roll.
because the Smoky Mountain belts were defended on a WWE pay-per-view that one time. I remember. Okay,
Yeah, so basically they had a little bit of a crossover in two different sections, but so they
yeah,
I mean they're also in the WWE Hall of Fame, so there you
yeah.
go.
Now,
And
would you agree that like their perfect rivalry though was the Midnight Express rivalry?
without a doubt,
Okay,
without a doubt,
yeah,
no question about it. So
yeah,
I mean those guys just they ruled the 80s in the South. Those two
yeah,
teams would go at it, and you would think that the world was going to end if the Rock and Roll Express got beat by the Midnight
yeah.
Express.
Well,
Yeah,
I think Corny has that saying that's like if you go to 7 out of every 10 homes in the South have two pictures hanging on their wall. During the
mm-hmm.
80s, one was Jesus and the other was Ricky and Robert.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep. The Rock and Roll Express ruled the South, man. And I
Yes,
got to
they
meet
did.
these guys. Actually, the same time I met Ricky Steamboat. And they are just the best guys, just pure gentlemen. It was shortly after they got it was the year after they got in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So their rings were nice and shiny, and but it was just it
Yeah,
was
I
just so
remember.
cool.
So I remember yeah, so that was where Corny was at that one. And and so he was talking to Ricky, and and so like he started talking to me, and then so that's how he introduced me to Ricky, and Ricky was fine, right? So then immediately, like, I'm walking around, and then Robert's at the table, right? And Robert doesn't know, like, so like he just comes up and immediately starts trying to sell me a t-shirt. Like, like, he's so carny about everything. Like, immediately, like any just topic of conversation went right back to this t-shirt. He's like, only $25, man. Only $25. $25 can be yours. It was like, I'm sure
Oh.
good. Thank you, sir. I'll think about it. It's like, you probably don't have my size, but we're cool.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like I was setting up our table or something like that, and then all of a sudden, like I just see Ricky Morton. I'm like, oh my god, Ricky Morton's here! It's like, and, yeah. So of course Roberts go with him because they don't
Yeah.
appear, apart. Yeah. So I went up and talked to him, and I had a nice conversation with them. But yeah, they were cool. And then like the next day, they said said hey to him again or something like that in passing. Like before things opened up, and said hey to Ricky. He's like, hey George, how's it going? I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, had a nice pop over that. Let's see here. Oh, Elias got some comments here, and he wants to know. He's got a question here about what's wrong with CM Punk.
Um.
Like why
The
the whole roster doesn't want to deal with him.
Okay, so I'm gonna say the real reason, right
Oh,
here, 100%
oh,
why. What's wrong with CM Punk? What is wrong with CM Punk? He came back to wrestling. That's what's wrong with CM Punk. If he never
interesting.
would have came back, no, this would have happened. He'd be fine. He'd be happy. Let him go and do his thing. Should have stayed out of wrestling. Hot take by
Interesting.
me. Hot
That
take.
is
I don't know if I mic drop or do whatever, like hot take or throw tea or whatever the kids are doing nowadays.
Boom. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a mic drop. Interesting. Yeah, because I'm on the opposite side. I'm a Punk fan. I think basically the situation that happened backstage, the fight he had with the Elite, the disagreement that they had, was basically blown out of proportion. And back in the day, you'd go in the office with the general manager or whoever's in charge, and you'd hash it out because there's a lot of money on the table, and you just hash out like adults, and there you go. Why Tony Khan has not done this, and why he's got basically. That's the thing is, I've heard some reports that basically, like, since Punk's come back recently after the fight, and he was gone for a while, the Elite were gone for a little bit. Apparently, everything's cool, but it's literally like Punk's on one side of the arena, and the Elite are on the other side of the arena, and the Elite doesn't want to talk to Punk. So it's like, okay, let's hash this out like grown-ups here, because honestly, there is a lot of money in a six-man tag team match for a big pay-per-view of Punk and FTR versus Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. There's a big money match there, and why it hasn't happened. My hot take is that Kenny and the Bucks need to suck it up and talk like adults and work that stuff out, because there's money to be made. So there you go. So there's our take, Elias. We are best friends. We are on both opposite sides of the fence on the CM Punk situation here, and we still manage to get along. So there we go.
Yeah, we do. We might kind of jab at each other in text messages from time to time on things, but yeah, that's that is one thing. It's like we can disagree, but we can disagree well, and I think that's great. The only time I think we ever really kind of got angry at each other, I remember, was we were arguing over the button system in WWF Attitude on PlayStation. Yeah, like I was trying to describe it one way, you were trying to describe it another. Yeah.
Oh,
We
man,
might
that's
have
a
been
throwback.
teenagers, and we might have been a little inebriated at the time too, but
Well,
yeah.
of course we were, yeah. So, you're welcome, Elias. You say thanks. It's not Crowder chiming in saying, "Dad." I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah.
But his pick for his favorite tag team: Fuego del Sol and Fuego
Fuego
Two.
2. Fuego dos. Fuego
Yeah,
dos.
Fuego Dos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nice
Wasn't
AEW.
Cody at all. Didn't have the tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and last agrees says it's all about business. It's exactly. You know, it's like they don't have to like you. There's a long history of wrestlers who would face each other in the ring, perform well together, manage to not kill each other, and they absolutely hated each other's guts in real life. They were called Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, or Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, or Hulk Hogan and anybody really, for that matter.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, but like in real talk here, like
mm,
when CM Punk first came back to AEW, I was on board. I was excited.
mhm.
Let's do this. CM Punk is back. He is back in AEW, my promotion
Yeah,
of choice. I fly the flag for Pete's sake. You
sure.
know, I'm ready to see this. He comes out like he cuts that first promo on Rampage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all right, I'm gonna see CM Punk. And I see CM Punk, I see a lot of CM Punk talking, is what I see.
Mhm.
Like he'll come out and he'll cut the same promo about, oh, it's great to be back. The fans love me. And I'm sure that's wonderful and fantastic. Once I've seen it the 15 times that you've done it before, like back it up with some action. You might have one or two matches in between all that time. And
Yeah, I mean, his
yeah,
matches were few and far between. Yeah.
yeah. And that started to rub me the wrong way. So that was, of course, easy for me to use Brawl Out as more ammunition to dislike Punk, which
Yeah.
I may or may not be having a certain level of kayfabe about right now. Just for argument's sake. But I'm never
But
going to be
yeah,
a total CM Punk fan.
and see, I'm aware of the fact that he's a bit of a curmudgeon. He's grumpy, and when he feels disrespected, he's very vocal about it. He wants that to be known. He did that in WWE, so
Yeah,
this is nothing new. But I mean, that stuff's worked out, And what you don't do is work it out on Twitter. You don't work it out in the ring during a match when you're teasing each other and all that kind of jazz. You work it out backstage, you work it out in the office, and then basically you go and have yourself a big match, and everybody makes money and everybody's happy. So,
look at
I
you
mean, like I
thinking like
said,
an adult, and me thinking like a vengeful
I'm
child.
I'm not thinking like an adult. I'm thinking like a businessman. I'm thinking like
No,
a
you're
booker.
right. No,
Yeah.
you are
And
right. Yeah,
Tony Khan needs to do the exact same thing. He needs to grow up. Yes, they may be your buddies, but they're also your employees. Don't forget
right.
that.
Yeah.
I got a couple more tag teams here. I gotta go, and then we've gone a bit here, so I like this. But gotta go old school WCW. Ron
Oh
Simmons
yeah.
and the Natural Butch Reed, along with Mr. Teddy Long, they are doomed. Love these guys back in the day.
Oh man, that is a throwback in the day.
Yeah, love these guys.
God,
And of
yeah,
course, when they first premiered on the scene, of course, they had both separately had been in WCW for a while. And when they decided to tag together, they wore masks that were like the worst masks. Like as well as kind of masks like where the nose is cut out. So it didn't mask whatsoever who they were. You knew immediately, oh, well, that's Ron Simmons, that's Butch Reed, sort of thing like that. But that was
yeah,
when they first came out. That was the thing. Oh, who are these guys? They're like everybody knows who they are. But yeah, having Teddy Long managing them, they were just a great bad guy tag team. They did a little bit of a face turn as well, but for the most part, they were bad guys and they were just big and bruisers and just badasses. Loved them, loved them, loved them.
yeah.
So, yeah. My only recent tag teams, I went for a lot of old school teams here, but my only recent tag team, and recent as in they broke up 15 years ago, um, little throwback to TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, America's Most Wanted.
Yes.
The Cowboy James Storm, the Wildcat Chris Harris on the right there. Uh, these guys were fantastic. They made a great team. They were multi-time tag team champions. And then I guess Wildcat Chris Harris got himself a bit of an ego and thought, I can make it in the WWE. Found out
No.
that wasn't the case. And he not only did not go back to TNA, well, I think he came back like a couple of times for brief appearances or whatnot, a reunion once with James Storm. But for the most part, he's kind of stayed out of the wrestling business because Braden Walker was a bit of an embarrassment in WWE. So,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the Cowboy James Storm on the left there had a very long career in TNA wrestling, and then he's been with NWA and briefly with NXT wrestling, and so Cowboy did great. And of course, we went later on to team up with Robert Roode and be Beer Money,
I love
which
Beer Money. Beer Money was
yeah,
so good.
and frankly, Beer Money was a far more successful tag team than America's Most Wanted was.
Yeah.
But you
James
couldn't
Storm
have
looks
Beer
so young
Money.
in that picture too.
Yeah, but you couldn't have Beer Money without America's Most Wanted first. So
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
it's a chicken before the egg sort of situation here. And then my honorable mention tag team here, probably what could have been one of the greatest tag teams of all time in WWE history, but alas, it didn't happen. I'm talking about the Ultimate Maniacs.
Oh,
The Macho
yeah.
Man, Randy Savage, teaming up with the Ultimate Warrior. So the story was that they had a rivalry going with Razor Ramon and Ric Flair at the time. And was it 91, 92, something like that? 92. And they basically had a couple of matches, as a team, little tune-up matches, whatever else, a lot of promos and back and forth stuff. But the Ultimate Maniacs and Ric Flair and Razor Ramon never actually had a match against each other. The first time they were supposed to do that was going to be SummerSlam 92. And then basically the literal week of the show, the Ultimate Warrior decides to stiff Vince for more money. And instead of Vince caving in, Vince says, bye-bye, and fires Ultimate Warrior for the second time in his career. Alas, I think Sid Vicious or Sid Justice at the time was the fill-in. So the match still actually happened with Randy Savage teaming up with Sid Justice against Razor Ramon and Ric Flair. But
Yeah.
what could have been one of the greatest tag teams of all time never actually happened. So there you go.
That would have, man, I would have loved to hear some of the shoot stories about how they'd try and plan a match together with as much of a perfectionist as Savage was versus like what Hellwig would or wouldn't do, you know?
It had to be, Randy had to be in control the whole time, because that's the thing is, like, like you said, usually when wrestlers work out a match, they kind of sit and they talk about it, and they kind of plan, like, they know what the ending's going to be. That's already predetermined by the booker. But the
Right.
wrestlers themselves, predominantly, they work out the match between themselves. Here's, let's do a couple of spots here and here, a couple of big things. But then, like, the rest of the stuff, the kind of the meat of the match is usually worked out within there, because they're both professionals. They kind of do that stuff.
Yeah.
Randy would come in with pages of notes of stuff that, let's plan this and let's plan this out and do this. And it's like, so like he had like all these great details down, but he would come in with a friggin' notebook.
Yeah. I remember hearing George the Animal Steel talking about that, and like it drove him nuts.
Yeah, and Ultimate Warrior had like 3 moves. God bless him.
And one of the moves was shaking the ropes.
No, okay, well, 4 moves then, because he had the body slams and the gorilla presses, so different variations of that. And then he could clothesline you, and then the diving splash or the diving shoulder block, which again was the same move. Just it was a diving move. Either you landed on somebody, or landed near somebody. But yeah, he didn't have a. He was the perfect example of a Vince McMahon wrestler, because Vince is all about the sizzle, don't care anything about the steak.
Right.
So Ultimate Warrior looks great. He's intense. His promos are crazy. He comes running out to the ring and shaking the ropes, and the metal music, and all that kind of stuff. But you don't really care about the matches. He's all just the personality. So that's what attracted me back then. So there you go. A couple more comments on here, and alas, of course, he's a manager brother. Yeah. Hang on. It's Not Crowder commented, said that he grew up with Teddy Long as general manager. Didn't know he was a manager. Yes. Okay. So sorry, that was Alas was answering. It's Not Crowder. Yes. So actually, Crowder, Teddy Long has had a very long history in wrestling. He literally started like selling tickets and sweeping the ring and stuff like that, and then he would get a job as a referee. And then he would get like manager jobs. So he never actually wrestled in the ring, but as a referee and as a manager, you do have to learn some things, learn how to take bumps and whatever else. So he's had some training, but yeah, Teddy's had a very long history, well before he got into the WWE of being a referee, manager, all sorts of stuff. So I think even Teddy popped the popcorn probably back in the day. But yeah, so yeah, it's of course he's a really cool guy too. I got to interview him a few years back too, and yeah, I mean just the stuff that man has seen in his time, because he'd drive other wrestlers around sometimes too. Kind of be like a a gopher, kind of a man of all trades sort of thing like that, and yeah, so it's again very interesting history with him.
Yeah,
So
debuted in '85. I got him pulled
wow.
up here. He started out as one of the errand boys for Tommy Rich and Abdullah the Butcher.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember he was on Abdullah's dark side, but yeah.
yeah, and he's told me some road stories about Abdullah that I can't repeat on this podcast. But yeah, he's yeah, he definitely had some stories about it being Abdullah's handler, or in Abdullah still being in gimmick, whatnot. Like he couldn't talk to you know people. He'd point and grunt at the pictures on the menu or
Right,
something like
yeah.
that. Like he couldn't just ask for a steak. From the waitress. Sort of thing like that. So most of the time he'd have to he said he'd have to talk for Abdullah. So yeah, it was fun here. Elias has got a question on here. I don't know anything about this. Goldberg versus Sting, is that real? As in like a current match, they're trying to book something? That's a good question.
Oh, I'd hope not.
Well, I mean,
Well, heaven help us if
there's
that's
well, see, Goldberg is kind of still in the one more match sort of mentality, but I think he's done with WWE. So he's kind of shopping around, and I'd heard that basically Tony Khan had actually talked to Goldberg to bring him in maybe for a limited run. So, and that's the thing. Goldberg and Sting never went at it in WCW. They were on the same side of the fence usually, or
no,
did they?
actually they have a few times.
Oh, no
Uh
kidding.
yeah, they Slamboree, Halloween Havoc 99.
Oh, dang, okay.
Um yeah, they did go at it a few times, but yeah.
Oh, that's
Nothing
right. Yeah,
specific. Yeah.
because Halloween Havoc was when he was Wolfpack Sting, and when it gets Goldberg for the title, I think.
I don't remember the timeline that well. Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. Yeah, so okay, they have faced each other, but I don't know if they might be facing each other in the near future or trying to maybe put something special together.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
I mean, if I was Tony Khan and this is going to happen, I'd try to book this properly, not it be a surprise. Big Goldberg's appearance, make that a surprise, but the match itself,
Right.
book that match and promote that match, because that could bring some old school people to your to view your product, because well, hey, we know who Goldberg and Sting are. Well, hey, we got to see it. We haven't seen these guys wrestle in 30 years or whatnot. So
Well.
yeah. So okay, I don't know, Elias, but yeah, I'm interested to find out. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, I think we've about wrapped it up for here.
We went
we
long enough, ain't we?
Yes, we did. We went a long time here, but we talked a lot of wrestling here, so it's
Yeah.
all time well spent, of course. And I got little kitties that tell me they want a snack for second dinner here, I guess. So.
Oh yeah. I've been dodging angry cats for a few minutes here. I just keep thinking if this is back in the TV station, just imagine like if we went this long and just Joe was ready to kill us. And we were trying to tape it.
I know we never could have too much fun this long
Yeah.
on the TV show. Even
Yeah.
the Facebook audience didn't care, but it's like Joe had other things to do. So
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid actual work. So
Yeah. And, yeah. And it was like I just took half the day off usually. So it was like I was done with work. I didn't care. I just
yeah,
stayed there, hang out and yeah.
I'm promoting station programming, so I was actually doing work. So there you go. So
Yeah. Yeah. I got to go and help my buddy who got me into free things, and like I got to
yeah,
hang out and I got to be promotional media.
that's right. come on, you were an important part of our Guerrilla Street team, and so there you go. Yeah, we
I
couldn't
think
have
I
done cons.
was. I was
We couldn't have done
dependable.
cons without you. I told you,
Yeah.
you were my rabbit's foot.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Like to see them try and do it now. They couldn't do it.
That's right. Well, they
Yeah.
aren't doing it at all. So there you go.
Well,
yeah. I told them, I was like, yeah, go ahead, try to do something else without me, but still kind of keep this going or not. They didn't. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, deuces. I'm
yeah.
gonna do my own thing here. So and here we are with Fanatic Forum.
Which I think is working out much better.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll never leave the house. So I don't even have to wear pants.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm wearing shorts, but it's like, but you guys at home don't know that.
Right.
So there you go. All right, sir. Well, I once again thank you very much for being on the show. I always appreciate you.
You are very welcome. Always good. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite. And I love just getting to hang out. And I know we usually do our Wednesday thing, but I always feel like this is an extra hangout session too.
Exactly. Of course, now we have two hangout nights with we have Dynamite and Collision. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
I'm not so great on Rampage. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, Rampage it's a 1 hour thing, and it's become not important anymore. So it's fine. Watching that. I can usually go through Rampage in about like 28 minutes. So there you
go. Yeah, there you go.
Usually there's like one match at least worth seeing, and then the rest is kind of fast forward city. So
right.
Anywho, so brother, you have yourselves a good one. I will see you tomorrow for Collision, and folks, you have yourselves a fantastic weekend. There's a lot of wrestling to watch, and of course, a lot more coming up with AEW's All In and All Out, respectively. So we will see you guys next time on the Fanatic Forum. You all have yourselves a fantastic week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.